In this video, I'll be taking you through an intermediate level scale practice. We'll start with my favorite finger warm-up, followed by some C major and chromatic scales. For channel members, we'll also cover some faster finger work and articulation combinations. So if you're interested in seeing that extended cut, please consider becoming a channel member by scanning this QR code or following the link in the description. In addition to gaining access to exclusive members-only content, you'll also be supporting my work such as this. In the meantime, you can also help me out by liking this video and by subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks in advance. To warm up, let's start with my whole step, half step exercise. I love this exercise because it allows me to play every single whole step and half step in the range of the flute. And of course, these whole steps and half steps are the building blocks of the scales that we're going to practice later. So if you're interested in downloading this exercise, you can get a free copy on my website by scanning this QR code or following the link in the description. As we play through, I'm planning to breathe every 2 measures, so please be prepared that I'm going to stop, breathe, and then restart again. Breathe. Let's continue upwards, and as you play through, see if you can focus on making your connections between the notes a little bit smoother, your air a little bit smoother, almost like you're playing a long tone with moving fingers. Breathe. Up an octave. Let's continue with some C major scales going up and down an octave. You can find these scales and many more exercises in my book, 8 Essential Exercises. Simply follow this QR code or the link in the description. As I play through these, I'm going to be focusing on maintaining a steady and homogeneous tone color as well as pitch. Many of us were taught to aim higher as the notes go up. However, if we do this too much, it can result in a large spread in the tone color as well as the pitch. So I'm going to focus on seeing if I can move a little bit less and if there can be a little less difference in direction between my bottom note and top note. And hopefully that'll not only make the tone color more homogeneous, but also will keep the pitch in check. In my book, this is exercise 3D, and I'll be playing at about this speed. So let's take a breath, and here we go. Let's continue with some 1-octave chromatic scales, which are exercise 2B in my book. As I play through these, I'm going to be focusing not only on the fluidity of my fingers, but also the fluidity of the air, and especially between the notes. I want to make sure that there's enough air passing as the fingers are moving. And hopefully that's going to lead to a smoother and more supple chromatic scale. This exercise is basically a shortened version of the 2-octave chromatic scale that you'll find in Taffanel and Gobert. However, I find that for an intermediate level flute player, it's beneficial to isolate just that single octave. And if you find even this 1 octave challenging, and that can happen a lot, especially in the 3rd octave, then what I would recommend is to segment it even more and just do half octaves over the top. In this way, you can work out the problem areas without wasting time playing the same scale over and over again. In addition, while the scales are laid out as 6 notes per beat, there are a few different ways that you can think about them as you practice. The most obvious, perhaps, is to think about it in groups of triplets. However, you could also think about it in groups of 2. Or you could think about it in groups of 4, which will cross over the beats. I think you'll find that if you practice your chromatic scales in those different ways, it will enlighten some of the areas where your fingers are having a little bit of trouble, and it'll also help you to smooth those areas out a little bit more efficiently. So I highly encourage you to not stick to the same format every time you practice chromatic scales, but try to mix it up. In this way, I think you'll get more improvement quicker. So let's go ahead with exercise 2B. These are 1-octave chromatics. Again, make sure that your spread between the lowest note and the highest note is not too wide. Try to keep that as narrow as possible by listening to the tone color and the pitch. We're going to go about this speed. Okay, so let's get ready by taking a breath. Breathe. Let's take a brief pause before we move on to the next octave and stretch a little bit and breathe a little bit and let your body relax and come back to neutral. Okay, let's continue with the 2nd and 3rd octaves. Up an octave. This scale warm-up continues for channel members, where we move our fingers a little bit faster and work on some articulation combinations. So if you're interested in practicing that with me, please consider becoming a channel member by scanning this QR code or following the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you've gotten some value and enjoyment out of this video. If so, please let me know by giving it a like and down in the comments. You can find sheet music, including my 8 essential exercises, at lansuzuki.com/store. Simply follow this QR code or the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and while you're here, here's another video you might be interested in.